Her finger was still on his collar when she turned and saw me. She froze. Just for a second. Just long enough to betray something. Guilt? Shock? Or maybe just the realization that I was supposed to be at the front of the room, smiling and thanking everyone for coming to a party I didn't plan. Instead, I was standing by the hallway archway, behind a group of people who didn't even know I had arrived. No one saw me slip in. No one noticed I hadn't walked through the front like I was meant to. There was a reason I didn't. I had a feeling. I wasn't supposed to have one, of course. Not tonight. Tonight was about me. About the balloons with the wrong birth year printed on them. About the cake with my name spelled in mango slices because someone remembered I was trying to be healthy. About the slideshow that would never play because someone forgot to bring the HDMI cord. It was all designed, planned, built by her. All except for that part. The part where she tucked her hair behind her ear and looked up at him like she was alone at that party. Like no one else mattered. Like I didn't exist. The room smelled like expensive perfume, grilled shrimp, and lies. He didn't pull back. He didn't even flinch. His shirt was ironed in a way I couldn't match on my best day. His watch cost more than our couch. And his confidence? It was casual, effortless, the kind that made people hand over their secrets without even asking. Her smile was crooked when she spotted me. A twitch, then gone. Like she was trying to remember her lines in a play that suddenly didn't feel safe anymore. I didn't move. Neither did she. And for those few seconds, we both understood something neither of us wanted to say out loud. The party wasn't really for me. Not the drinks. Not the music. Not the lake view or the hand-picked guest list. It was a stage. A set piece. A convenient gathering where she could shine, and I could disappear without anyone noticing. Except I did notice. I saw everything. And I knew that if I opened my mouth, if I walked into that room with the stupid, surprised sign above the bar, I wouldn't be able to play dumb anymore. So I turned around. Took one last look at the sparkly candlelight bouncing off the wine glasses. And left. I didn't touch the cake. I didn't open the gift bag with the wrong initials. And I didn't say goodbye. Because some exits don't need a speech. They only need a door. The thing about walking out of your own birthday party is that nobody chases after you. Not at first. People assume you're in the bathroom, or taking a call, or stepping outside for air because someone lit a cigar without asking. But when 20 minutes pass, when the host, your wife, doesn't come looking, that silence starts to speak louder than any accusation ever could. I drove without a destination. Just streets and traffic lights, and the vague hum of my heartbeat in my ears. I passed a mini-mart, a closed florist, and some kids skateboarding under a flickering parking lot light. For a second, I thought about going back, not to the party, but to the life before it. But I didn't. I couldn't. Something in me had snapped. And once you hear it break, you can't pretend the crack isn't there. Eventually, I ended up in the parking lot of a motel I didn't recognize. Brick building. Buzzing neon vacancy sign. The kind of place where you pay cash and nobody asks questions. I didn't need a bed. I needed distance. I needed to not be in that house, with that wine glass, with that man's shirt collar still touched by her hand. The clerk barely looked up, gave me a key that smelled like mildew and a Wi-Fi password that didn't work. Room 208. The carpet was stained, the lamp flickered, and the air conditioning groaned like it was dying. Still, it was perfect. Because it was not home. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my phone. No missed calls. No texts. No, where are you? But there was one voicemail. It was from Talia, her best friend. The one who always overshared after 2 cocktails and forgot to put her phone on silent during movies. Her voice was low, hesitant, and, most surprisingly, sober. Hey, I don't know if you've left yet, or if you're just hiding out somewhere. But I saw them. In the hallway. Before you arrived. And I thought you should know she told Milo not to mention Denver. She actually grabbed his arm and said it like it was serious. Don't say anything about Denver in front of Dev. I wasn't going to tell you. I didn't want to cause anything. But now I just feel sick. I'm sorry. I didn't know what to do. I must have replayed it 5 times. Denver. She said she was at a conference in Denver back in April. A 3-day PR seminar with breakout sessions and networking brunches and back-to-back meetings. She brought home-branded pens and a tote bag that smelled like cologne. It all made sense now. All of it. The late nights. The guarded phone. The sudden interest in buying new dresses just because. The way she started correcting how I pronounced certain words, as if someone else had pointed out I said them wrong. I sat in that dim motel room, surrounded by peeling wallpaper and buzzing silence, and felt something settle in my chest. Not rage, not even sadness, just the cold clarity that you only get when denial finally lets go of your throat. She didn't just flirt with a guest. She invited the man she had an affair with to a party in my name, and she smiled in front of everyone while he poured her wine. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just took the key off the nightstand, walked to the front desk, and booked another night. Because I knew I wasn't going back. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like apologizing for that. I hadn't slept. Not really. I lay there in the motel bed, half covered by a blanket that felt like sandpaper, staring at the cracks in the ceiling like they were constellations I needed to decode. My mind kept replaying that voicemail, her voice, Denver, the pause before his name, the words, "Don't say anything." I had questions, too many of them. But what haunted me more than the betrayal itself was the precision of it, the deliberate way it was all staged. The candles, the music, the carefully selected guest list. It wasn't just cheating. It was presentation. Like she wanted it to be seen, but only by the right people. Or maybe only not by me. The sun started bleeding through the curtains when my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. At first, I let it go to voicemail. I didn't want more apologies. I didn't want more people telling me they felt weird about what they saw. I didn't want pity. But then it rang again. Same number. No voicemail this time. Something about that felt different. I picked it up on the third ring. My voice cracked when I said, "Hello." There was a pause, long enough to make me think it might be a robocall. Then, "I shouldn't be calling, but I was at the party, and I saw you leave." Her voice was soft, careful, like she was walking across glass barefoot. "Who is this?" I asked. Another pause. I could hear traffic in the background. Birds, maybe. The sound of someone walking fast. "My name's Becca. You don't know me, but I work with Camilla. I'm not calling to cause problems. I couldn't sleep after what I saw." I sat up in bed, my throat dry. "Why are you calling me?" "Because I know what it looks like when someone's being lied to. And because no one else is going to tell you the truth. They're all scared of her. Or of what happens if they get involved. But I don't care anymore. I've seen too much. And last night, that wasn't just disrespect. That was calculated." I didn't say anything. She continued. "I was in the hallway before you got there. I saw Milo, that guy in the black suit, pin her against the bathroom door. I mean, it didn't look like a fight. It looked like foreplay. But the way she kept looking over her shoulder, like she was checking the time, I don't think she expected you to show up when you did." I was shaking. Not angry, just cold. Like my body finally caught up with the emotional frostbite. "Why are you telling me this now?" Becca's voice lowered. "Because you need to know it wasn't just Denver. And it wasn't just Milo." I swear, the room spun for a moment. "What do you mean?" "She's been playing this game for months. At work, we call it Camilla's Shadow Projects. It's a joke, sort of. She goes on these trips, claims it's conferences or training weekends, but she never posts photos, never tags anyone. And somehow, her phone is always dead the whole time. A few of us caught on, but we didn't say anything. We figured it wasn't our business." I leaned forward, gripping the edge of the bed like it would keep me from falling into the carpet. "You're telling me she's been seeing other people, regularly?" "I'm telling you," Becca said. "That last night wasn't her mistake. It was her habit. She just finally slipped in front of the wrong audience." The call ended with no goodbye. Just silence. Like a curtain dropping. I sat there in the motel room, phone still pressed to my ear, while the air conditioner rattled out its uneven song. I wasn't just heartbroken anymore. I was humiliated. Every anniversary, every weekend getaway, every time I thought we were reconnecting, she was living a double life behind my back, right under my nose. And the worst part? People knew. People laughed about it. People whispered and looked away. All except one. Becca. I didn't know what I was going to do next. But I knew one thing with crushing certainty. I wasn't going to be quiet anymore. I didn't pack anything when I left the motel. Just grabbed my keys, checked out without saying a word, and drove the long way back. Past the lake, the back roads, the strip mall where we bought our first couch. I needed the drive to mean something. I needed time to rehearse the words I wanted to say to her. But the truth was, no matter how many times I ran the conversation in my head, I kept freezing at the same line. Why? I knew the what. I knew the who. But the why kept eating me alive. Why did she do it? Why Milo? Why at my birthday? Why invite me to a show where I was the joke? When I pulled up to the house, the balloons were still hanging in the front window, sagging now. The porch light was off. The driveway was empty. No sign of her car. I checked the time, 6:43 p.m. I didn't want to believe it, but a sick thought crossed my mind. She might be with him again. I walked up to the front door, expecting it to be locked. It wasn't. I pushed it open slowly, like I was stepping into a crime scene. Everything looked exactly as it had the night before, except lifeless. Empty paper plates still on the counter. A half-eaten slice of cake melting on a plate near the sink. The banner that said, Level 34 Unlocked, had half fallen, the tape giving up like the party itself. I walked into the living room. My coat was still on the back of the chair where I'd left it. There was a single wine glass on the coffee table, with red lipstick on the rim. Her favorite shade. Stolen rose. But she wasn't there. I checked the bedroom. The bed was made. Her purse was gone. Her phone charger was still plugged in, but the cord dangled empty. I sat down on the edge of the bed and let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. And then I heard it. A knock. 2 short taps. Not at the front door, at the back. I stood up slowly, like something might shatter if I moved too fast. Walked past the dining room, past the sliding glass door. And there he was. Milo. Standing in my backyard, hands in his pockets like he owned the place. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. I opened the door and stared at him. My hands were cold, but not shaking. Not anymore. What the hell do you want? I asked, trying to keep my voice from cracking. I didn't know you'd be here, he said flatly. Camilla said you'd be gone till tomorrow. Funny. She said a lot of things. Milo looked around, almost uncomfortable. I didn't come here to fight. Then why are you in my backyard? He hesitated. Because you're not the only one she lied to. That stopped me. I expected arrogance. I expected smugness. But I didn't expect confusion. I don't understand, I said. She told me you two were separated, he continued. That the marriage was just paperwork. That you were moving out in a month. That last night wasn't about you. It was about her finally being free. I didn't even know it was your birthday until I saw the cake. I laughed. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was pathetic how well she had spun the web. I wasn't just being cheated on. I was being edited out of my own story. She played us both, he said, stepping back. But I should have known. She's good at that. Really good. I didn't ask him to come inside. I didn't want to hear more. But he paused before leaving. One more thing, he said, lowering his voice. There's a guy. Older. She used to talk about him at work. Someone from before you. I think he's back. And I think he's part of this. My stomach dropped. I don't know who he is, Milo said. But she was scared. Really scared. Last week, I caught her crying in the break room. She had her phone in her hand and said something like, he can't find out. He'll ruin everything. Who was she talking about? I asked. He shook his head. She never said. But if you're planning on confronting her, maybe ask the right questions. And with that, he walked away. I stood there in the open doorway, hearing his footsteps fade into the street. My house was dark behind me. My birthday party had turned into a memory I didn't ask for. And now, somehow, the story had gotten even darker. There was someone else. Someone I didn't know about. Someone she was afraid of. And that terrified me more than anything. I couldn't stay in that house. Not with the wine-stained glasses and the smell of vanilla candles still clinging to the curtains. Not with the echo of the word Denver bouncing between the walls like an accusation. And definitely not after Milo's parting words. That there was someone else. Someone from her past. Someone she was afraid of. It didn't make sense. Camilla wasn't the type to get scared. She was calculated, confident, cold, if I'm honest. That was part of what made her so magnetic. You never knew what she was really thinking, and she loved that power. So to hear she'd been crying, whispering that someone might ruin everything, that cracked something open in my head. Something I'd ignored for years. So I left again. But this time, I didn't go to a motel. I went to her office. It was Sunday. The building was mostly empty. A security guard gave me a side glance, but didn't stop me when I said I left my laptop in my wife's office and needed to grab it. He probably didn't care. I wouldn't have. I knew the layout. I'd been there for company parties. Camilla's corner office was pristine, minimalist, like a showroom. A single framed photo of the two of us sat on her shelf, taken 3 years ago in Prague. I remember that trip. It rained every day, and she called it romantic. Looking back, I think it was just another excuse to be away from anyone who knew her too well. Her laptop was gone, but her desk drawers weren't locked. In the second drawer, under a pile of budget drafts and event itineraries, I found something strange. A leather-bound notebook. Old. Scuffed. Didn't match her usual aesthetic at all. I flipped through the pages. Mostly blank, except for the first 10 or so. Notes. Scribbles. And then one name, repeated over and over again like some kind of mantra. Julian. 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 Sometimes in all caps. Sometimes underlined. Once with a red pen. And on the bottom of the 6th page, in shaky handwriting, she had written, "If he contacts me again, I have to disappear." My blood ran cold. I sat there in her office, holding that notebook like it was radioactive, my heart pounding so loud I could barely think. Who was Julian? Why was his name hidden in a drawer beneath fake spreadsheets and email printouts? Why had she told Milo I'd be gone until tomorrow? Was she planning to meet this man? And most importantly, why would she write the word disappear? I took photos of every page. I don't know why. Maybe I was afraid the notebook would vanish like everything else that ever made sense. I drove home, but not before stopping at a gas station. I sat in the parking lot, staring at the photos I'd taken, trying to make patterns out of fragments. Like a detective in a movie, except I wasn't brave or smart or calm. I was just a husband with a crumbling life and a phone full of secrets I didn't ask for. When I finally pulled into our driveway, Camilla's car was there. She was back. My pulse kicked up instantly, like my body knew this wasn't going to be a conversation. It was going to be something else entirely. But when I stepped inside, the house was dead silent. No TV, no music, no footsteps, just a single envelope on the kitchen table. My name on the front, in her handwriting. No text, no note on my phone. Just ink on paper, old-fashioned, final, like something you leave behind when you plan on never returning. I stared at it for a full minute before picking it up, and then my phone buzzed. Not from her, not from Becca, not from Milo. It was a blocked number, and the message was only 4 words long. "You're not safe anymore." I didn't open the envelope right away. It sat there on the kitchen table like it was alive. Like touching it might trigger something I couldn't undo. The room was so quiet. I could hear the fridge humming. The ice maker clicked once, and I jumped. That's how on edge I was. That's what she'd turned me into, some half-shadowed version of myself, scared of paper and silence. And yet, I still couldn't walk away. I pulled out a chair, sat down, and finally tore it open, carefully, like it was a bomb. Inside wasn't a letter. It was 2 pages. Handwritten. No greeting. No signature. Just her voice, pressed into paper. "If you found this, then I'm already gone. I didn't want you to find it. I hoped you'd leave and never come back. Not because I don't care, but because I care too much, and because I was never supposed to let you get this close to the truth." I stopped. My chest felt tight. The air in the room had changed. "There's a name I never told you. Julian. Years before I met you, he was everything. Charismatic, obsessive, dangerous. I was young, stupid, and I thought being desired meant being loved. He disappeared after things ended. I thought I was free, but I wasn't. He reappeared 2 weeks ago. He knew where I worked, what car I drove, what gym I went to. He even knew about the party. About you. He's not after me anymore. He's after both of us." I gripped the edge of the table, feeling my skin go cold. This wasn't about Milo. This wasn't about Denver. This was something else entirely. I never meant to involve you. That's why I lied. That's why I acted like a monster. I thought if I pushed you away, if I made you hate me, you'd be safer. But then you showed up at the party when you weren't supposed to. And Julian saw you. He knows who you are now. If you get any messages, any strange calls, ignore them. Do not meet him. Do not respond. Leave town if you can. He wants to break things. He doesn't care who gets hurt. I don't know what happens next. But if he finds me again, I'll handle it the only way I know how. I'm sorry I wasn't who you thought I was. I'm sorry you had to find out like this. But above everything, I never stopped loving you." That was the end. No name. No date. Just that. I stared at the pages, trying to process whether it was real or just another manipulation. Another layer in her web. And then my phone buzzed again. Another blocked number. This time, it wasn't a message. It was a voicemail. I pressed play. The voice was low. Male. Calm. Like someone reading off a dinner menu. She always had a way of running, didn't she? "Tell me. Devin, did she tell you what happened in Seattle? Or did she leave that out of the scrapbook too?" Click. No background noise. No threats. Just that voice. smooth, almost amused. And he knew my name. I didn't even know there was a Seattle chapter to Camilla's story. We'd never been there. She never talked about it. I only found out now, from a man she said would ruin everything. I should have gone to the police. That would have been smart. Safe. Instead, I opened my laptop, typed Julian plus Camilla plus Seattle into every search engine I could think of. Nothing. Then I remembered the notebook. The page where she wrote, "If he contacts me again, I have to disappear." She wasn't exaggerating. She wasn't spiraling. She was planning. And the worst part? I think she knew I'd come back. I think she wanted me to read that letter, no matter what she wrote. Because now I was part of it. Hooked. Infected. Marked. By the end of that night, I had no more questions about whether she cheated. Because infidelity was the least dangerous thing she was hiding. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even lie down. I sat at the kitchen table, the letter still open in front of me like it was going to rearrange its words and tell me something different if I stared long enough. Her handwriting was uneven in places, like she was rushing, like she was crying. It didn't feel like a confession. It felt like a will. By 5:12 a.m., I was still there. No coffee. No lights on. Just my laptop open and a yellowed receipt I'd found tucked inside the back of her notebook, dated 2 years ago. The receipt was from a storage company across town. It wasn't in her name. The signature on the form read, E. Hollis. I'd never heard her use that name before. Hollis wasn't her maiden name. It wasn't a middle name. And yet the handwriting matched hers exactly. I called the storage facility at 7:01, the moment they opened. Asked about Unit 314 under the name E. Hollis. Said I was her brother, flying into town, and she'd left something important behind. The woman on the phone didn't care. She said the account was past due, the card on file declined, and if no one showed up to claim it by the end of the month, everything inside would be sold off. I asked for the address. She gave it to me without hesitation. By 8:23, I was parked in front of a metal door with peeling blue paint and a padlock that had clearly been cut recently, probably in preparation for auction. The hallway smelled like mildew and rubber. My footsteps echoed. I opened the unit. Inside was one thing. A black suitcase. Medium-sized. Not dusty. Not forgotten. Deliberately placed. There was a folded jacket on top. One I recognized. She used to wear it when we first started dating. Under that, a stack of papers, rubber-banded together. Under that, a photo album I'd never seen before. I sat down cross-legged on the concrete floor and opened the album. And that's when everything inside me broke. It was filled with photos of Camilla. But not the Camilla I knew. Not our wedding. Not our vacations. Not our home. These photos were older, duller, and she looked different. Shorter hair, different clothes, nervous smiles. Next to her in nearly every photo was a man. Not Milo, someone else. He had the same kind of smooth, confident face I remembered from the party, except colder, smarter, someone who could manipulate a room with a glance. There were no captions, but on the back of the third photo, in faded pen, was one line. Julian plus C, Seattle, October 2014. The man who left the voicemail. The one she feared. The one who somehow knew my name. I turned the pages slowly, my hands trembling now. And then I found the picture that turned my stomach inside out. It was Camilla, holding a baby. There was no man in that one. Just her, sitting in a small living room on a green couch, holding an infant wrapped in a gray blanket. And taped to the back of that photo was a small, handwritten note. Devin, if you ever see this, it's because I had no choice. His name is Elias. He's yours. I don't know how long I sat there. The walls felt like they were closing in. I couldn't breathe. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stopped existing for a while. We had never had children. She said she didn't want them. Said she wasn't wired for motherhood. I believed her. I trusted her. And yet here, in this forgotten unit in a storage warehouse under a fake name, was a photo of my wife holding a child I never met. A child she said was mine. But how? Why? Where was he now? Where was she? And why was Julian watching me? I looked back down at the photo, and then I saw something I hadn't noticed. In the corner of the frame, barely visible through the blur, there was a shadow near the window. A reflection. A man, standing behind the glass. Watching. I didn't go back to the house. Not right away. After what I found in the storage unit, the photos, the letter, the name of a child I never met, I drove aimlessly for hours. My brain was too loud for silence. but too full for sound. I kept hearing her voice in that letter. If he contacts me again, I have to disappear. And now I knew why. She was protecting someone. Not herself. Not even me. A child. Our child. The name, Elias, echoed in my skull like a heartbeat I'd never listened to before. A name she never dared say. A life I didn't know I'd helped create. And all I could think was, how much time had I lost? I didn't even know where to begin. No address. No paper trail. No one I could call. But something in me knew where she might go. Not to a hotel. Not to her office. But to a place she once said felt like nowhere. When we first started dating, Camilla had shown me an old cabin about an hour out of town. Her grandfather left it to her before he passed. We'd only been there once, years ago. She said it was the one place no one could reach her. No cell service. No neighbors. Just trees and air and silence. I took the chance. The drive up was full of fog. My hands were clutched so tight around the wheel, they went numb. I kept thinking I'd find the cabin empty. Abandoned. Cold. Instead, when I pulled up the gravel road, there was a light on in the window. A soft glow. I got out of the car and stood in the dark for a full minute before walking to the door. I knocked once. Twice. I almost turned around before I heard the lock click. She opened the door like she'd expected me, but her face crumpled the moment our eyes met. No lies. No smirk. Just everything she'd been holding in all at once. Fear, guilt, grief, and something that looked a little bit like hope. She didn't speak. Neither did I. She stepped aside and let me in. The cabin was quiet. There was a small fire in the corner. A backpack on the table. A photo of the boy, Elias, pinned to the wall with a thumbtack. He looked older now. 5, maybe 6. Dark hair. Her eyes. Where is he? I asked softly. With someone safe, she whispered. Not far. I didn't want to bring him here until I knew it was over. And is it? She paused, then nodded. Julian's gone. Really gone. I made sure. I had help. I didn't ask what that meant. Not yet. We sat down. She told me everything. How Julian had controlled her for years. How she'd run from him before she ever met me. How she'd found out she was pregnant after escaping Seattle. How she almost gave Elias up, terrified Julian would find them. And how she buried that life. Our life. Out of fear that I'd never understand, or worse, that I'd be in danger too. But I was wrong, she said through tears. You had a right to know. I was just so scared he'd hurt you. I thought pushing you away was safer. I didn't say anything. I just took her hand. And for the first time in days, she didn't pull away. There were no perfect words. No magic fixes. But we talked until morning, really talked. About the child. About the future. About maybe trying to rebuild what was left between us, piece by cautious piece. The next day, she took me to meet him, Elias. And when he looked up at me with her eyes and my smile, something shifted inside me. All the pain, the betrayal, the silence, it didn't vanish. But it made sense. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a father, and I wasn't walking away.